Good morning. Yes, I did take the gun apart. I couldn't resist, and under a lot of excuses of, well, at least I'll know what the parts are when I go to buy them and stuff like that. So it just gave me something to do. Well, taking the bands off uh, was really it wasn't that difficult. There was a lot of rust, but the coil did what it was supposed to do. The penetrating oil, and they came off fairly easy. And but the major problem was trying to get the trigger guard off so that I could get the barrel off the stock, and that took me about 2 days to do that, and I did finally get it done, and it was one of those real accomplishments. It was 9 o'clock at night when I finally was able to release the stock. Uh, so what happened was the this is the other gun, so I can show you here. This is what it looks like without the wood on it. This is the screw in the back, and of course that's the forward guard screw there. Underneath here, where the screws are, they were fused to the trigger guard. They were so rusted that they just wouldn't come off. Here's the one that's sitting here back aft, right here, um, yeah, right there. So with Mausers, what you have also is there's the big screw, and then you have the little screw here. And what this does is the big screw, you can see there's a little dent right there. I put it in too far, and the little screw holds the big screw from turning so that it won't get loose. It holds it tight. Well, both of these were actually in the front. The big screw and the little screw actually look like one screw because the rust had pitted it so much that they were stuck together. And back after it wasn't quite as bad, but it was still pretty bad. So what I did was the first. I know I did a little video on how to release a stock on a difficult gun. Well, this was the ultimate almost of the difficult guns. Um, what I did was I first took and I put some coil on the heads of the screws, and also down along the sides, because I knew that, well, this has just a little bit of rust, but there would be rust here that would be holding the magazine and the trigger guard to the wood. So I let it sit, and I kept adding a little bit, adding a little bit, adding a little bit, and trying it and seeing how it's going. And I didn't want to muck up the screws, so I was really careful and used the appropriate size screwdriver for it to make sure that I didn't strip it, because at that point I still had hopes that I'd be able to save the screws. Well, after about half a day or a little more than that, actually, there wasn't going to be any progress. I had taken a wire brush, trying to wire brush the top of the screws, because that's not where the threads are. On these screws that go inside here, the threads are on the receiver itself. So, this is just sitting up here, and they weren't budging at all. So what I did then was I decided I wanted to use some old PB Blaster. I don't like using PB Blaster so much. A lot of people go right to the PB, but I guess maybe more traditionally. And for me, it works better because it's kinder on the wood and so forth is to use the coil. But I used some PB Blaster and I let that sit. And again, I scrubbed with the wire brush, trying to get some of that stuff off so that I could um, release those screws. Well, it became evident as time went on that that was not going to happen because, like I said, they were fused together. They were just like one big bubbly mess. So I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try putting it in cold. Try, sometimes if you put stuff in the ice or whatever, that it will, or in the freezer, that it'll the difference in the shrinkage of the metal itself and the screws that will allow you to release that and see if that helps at all. So it's December in Vermont and it was cold, so it was snowy. So I put it outside in my breezeway and let it sit. and I let it sit overnight to see if that would help at all, and it didn't help. It was still in pretty rough shape. So what I had to do then was make a decision, and I said, I would rather um, save the the stock and not take chance on damaging that or damaging the receiver itself. So what I had to do was I had to remove the heads off the screws, and I figured if I removed the heads off the screws that I could lift the trigger guard out, and then I could release the receiver in the barrel. So I took my screwdriver. I mean, I don't have a drill press. I wish I had a drill press. And Christmas wishes are here and gone already, and so I'm not going to be getting a drill press. So what I have is what I had instead. I'm trying to find the little one. What I had instead was the vise, the gun vise, and my hand drill, and just very slowly and very carefully drill down until I could get rid of the heads of the screws. So this is the after screw here, what's left of it, and you can see I took the head off, and I did that with minimal damage to the trigger guard. So once that was done, then I had to go to the forward one, and the forward one was, I wish I had taken a picture of it. It looked like just one big lump. It didn't even look like a screw was there. Oh yeah, one other thing I did try was, everybody before I did this was people seen the things where you drill a hole in the top of that screw, and then you stick a doodad inside there and use your drill, and it'll extract the screws for strip screws. The doodad, I'm not sure, but anyway, so I tried that and that didn't work either. So anyway, back to what I was doing. So I drilled the heads off the after screw, and I'm trying to find that I had the forward screw here somewhere, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So I did drill the head off of the forward screw. Now, like I said, I don't have a drill press, and it's difficult because you have to make sure that you're right on where you need to be, and so there was a little collateral damage, and you can see that I was off by just a little bit. I think I can repair that, but yeah, I think I can repair that without any difficulty, and it was worth getting this off to redo the stocks. The stocks themselves are in decent shape. So after I got the screws off, or the screw heads off, it still wouldn't pull out, and I figured it's because the screw's long enough, especially the after one that goes through the wood, and if you're trying to pull it, it's not going to work because the screw is still inside the stock. So what I did was I put it in my gun vise, and I put the stock part where it's supposed to go, and I flipped it upside down, and I used a punch, and I tapped it, and it started going down the side. So I said, that's good. So then I went up to the forward one, and you know how your stock, your barrel sticks out on a Mauser like that. What I did was I put the forward place where you put your rifle in the gun stock far enough up that it was only touching the wood and not touching the barrel itself. And I tapped the forward screw, and they came out. Well, actually the barrel just fell, pow, so it came out. So and then I was able to just remove the trigger guard. So I guess what that is. So I guess what that is that's an addendum to the difficult stocks that I talked about earlier on how to get them out. And I guess that's the more drastic way of getting them off. Um, I've read where people have had to take and just bust the stock up to get it off, and I was not going to do that. The stocks that I looked for this guns are about $230, $240, and I certainly can't afford that on my budget. But anyway, so we got that off. You can see now that the barrel is off, and I have a broken spring on here. I need to replace the spring for that. The only problem I have now is, as you can see, there's some pitting. The question is, how much pitting is too much pitting for the rifle to be shot? I don't think there's too much on here. The gun barrel is thicker than you think it is. What I need to do is I need to get some measurements and figure out how deep the deepest pitting is, and in relation to the thickness of the barrel itself. But I certainly am going to be careful, and I want to make sure that I get some guidance on this, because you don't want your barrel to be too thin, especially when you fire a 30-06 through it, and I don't want any problems. So this is an unremarkable gun, the one that I have, as opposed to the other one that belongs to the young guy that's working with me. I mean, there's no markings, there's nothing. If you didn't know that it was a Colombian 1912, then you wouldn't be able to tell, at least for me anyway, from looking at the gun. So before I invest a bunch of money into it, I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to fire it. So, but anyway, just want to give you an update on that, and of course it took a long time, but anyway, I hope that you got some information out of it. Thank you.